the devil awakens.
Maximus wrests his life from the underworld.
Hey boy, what in the world are you doing here?
He was elated with his escape.
I wanted out.
I set out now in a box.
I'd like to welcome you to Blogapalooza. It's the most fun you've ever had on a Tuesday night. We're lucky to have a number of great local bloggers here with us. We have Martin Ray, who has his blog Notes from Halibut Point. We have Melissa Abbott, who has several blogs, Gloucester Gourmet, and some other blogs on basket making and arts and crafts. Steve Retler of Small Fish Design. Joey Shimataro of Good Morning Gloucester. Gregor Gibson of the Bookman's Log. And in the audience, we have the new Gloucester blog, The Clam. Very excited about that. We're going to begin tonight by having each of the panelists say a little bit about their blog. Here we go. The first is Martin Ray.
Okay. My blog is an outcome of a new phase of my life, which was taking an interest in Halibut Point as both a focal point and an opening to greater things that I was curious about in my life. Well, about 8 or 9 months ago, I came across my very first blog experience when the man at the end of the table, Greg Gibson, sent me something that he'd written, and it had a link. It referred to his blog site, and I went there and read it, and lights went on. I said, "Wow, that is the perfect format for disciplining myself and communicating with other people and getting a routine together to process and share the things that I was doing that I was interested in." So I went up the street and I said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "Well, you just go to Google." And so that was it. And so I went to Google and I clicked on such and such, and the template was reasonably within my abilities, and over time I figured out some of the other little nice things about it. But immediately I said, "This is free. It's intergalactic. It's not too difficult, and you can combine visuals with word thoughts. So great." And So I began with a strong interest in photography, and it was great to be able to get those up immediately. And of course, in the digital age, there it is. Anything that you can produce or borrow can be inserted with just one click, and then you add your writing, and then you develop a mailing list, and you are in the blog business. So that was all great. And so the name of my blog is Notes from Halibut Point. That came about as a result of an exhibit at the Cape Ann Museum 2 years ago of Marston Hartley's work, where not only did they have his paintings, in other words, the visual aspects, but his poetic writings of his experiences of his wanderings in Dogtown. And there was another light bulb that went on for me at that point. I said, "Oh, I know just the place that's not too far from my house where I can go and have adventures and musings and do research and make acquaintances." So that's how it started. And I thought it was going to be focused mainly on natural history, and immediately almost discovered that human beings are part of natural history, and I had to start including people and things that they had done. But that's exciting because it broadened out the possibilities. And I think that most media sources focus on bad news. Bad news is mobilizing, but good news is empowering. So that just means sharing life. That's my objective. And let's see. So getting it out there. I distribute it through an email list. You can passively put the blog up on your website and leave it at that, but I've collected a number of names of people who might be interested in it, so I send it out once a week with as an email with just an invitation to people who might like to look at it. And the advantage of the email attachment to me is that if anybody wants to write back, they've got your all they have to do is hit reply, and they can engage you, and it doesn't appear on the blog itself. I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you very much, Martin.
How close does this have to be?
Pretty close.
Oh, okay.
Right up on it.
All right. My name is Melissa Smith Abbott, and I'm from Gloucester, and my family's been here for generations. And so my family was in business for 70 years on Cape Ann, and they owned several restaurants, a couple of inns, and a bakery. And that was from 1929 until, say, 1974. So about 15 years ago, I started writing a book about the various restaurants and businesses that my family owned, because people kept coming up to me on the street and saying, geez, can you give me the recipe to the Melissa's garlic dressing that was on the table at the blacksmith shop in Rockport for about 50 years? Can you give me your grandmother's popover recipe from the Easterly Inn? Can you tell me how to make authentic Anadama bread? And so I was always scribbling on pieces of paper and handing them out to everybody. And so that was kind of, I wanted to document it, because my stepdaughters and my daughter would come into the kitchen and say, how did you do that? And it's kind of hard to translate that, you know, I grew up basically slave labor in a restaurant working. And I don't know how, you know, Henri, the pastry chef, showed me how to do these things. So I did want to document, and that's really how it started, my blogging started, because I had written this book, The Legacy of Three Melissas, and published it with Kathleen Valentine's help. She designed the book for me in 2010. And it's still a bestseller here at Toad Hall Bookstore and at the bookstore in downtown Gloucester. And I have a blog called gloucestergourmet.com. And because I've been a gardener on Cape Ann for over 35 years, I know I don't look that old. That's a joke. And I'm a beekeeper. And I like to do things the old-fashioned way. My grandparents all grew up in the Depression, and I learned a lot of the old-fashioned things. My family goes back here on my mother's side to the 1600s, and my husband's family goes back to the 1600s in Gloucester as well, to the Dorchester Company. And so we kind of inherited a lot of sustainable, what they call sustainable living kind of things that I just take for granted, but we always clam and lobster and fish, and it's just like in our blood, you know, oh, where's my clamming basket, you know, and people don't really, and I have a huge garden, I eat out of the garden 7 months out of the year, and I grow everything myself, and so I wanted to document that. So I have the Gloucester Gourmet blog was my first one. And then I kind of had to diversify because I have my apiary, which is Abbott honey. This is my honey. It's East Gloucester honey, and the East Gloucester honey is light. It's a very light color. If you go inland a few miles, it's a darker color. So I do a blog on that, and today I did a blog post because I installed some new bees in one of my hives today. I have a video and several pictures showing how to install. So I want to share with people, you know, my techniques and things that I've learned over the years. I believe the universe is co-creative and that we all have something to share with each other in the community. And the internet is such a great place to do that. Besides that, several years ago, I spent time on the island of Nantucket, and I learned how to make Nantucket baskets. And I also make pine needle baskets, which this is made out of pine needles. So I have another blog which gets a ton of traffic. I can't even tell you how much traffic, and it's gloucesterwomanbaskets.blogspot.com. And I share my techniques on how to make baskets, and I also do scrimshaw and things that I've made for people and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of interest in that. I also sell my baskets on Etsy, and I sell almost everything that I make. I sell my honey on my website, and I sell all the honey that I make. And the cooking blog is really just a labor of love. And it's the love for my generations, my family, Cape Ann, Gloucester. And I want to show people how to make a good baked stuffed haddock, how my grandmother made a lobster pie, how Anadama bread is made the authentic way, how they made, the codfish cakes in Annisquam versus how they made them in East Gloucester. And those are the real old-fashioned. People don't cook that way anymore. And so this book isn't about how people cook now. This book is how people cooked in the other generations. So I sell a few books. Like last week, I sold about 14 books. And that is, a lot of it does come from my blog, because people can come to the blog. I also use a lot of keywords on my blog, and I also do a lot of social networking. I have 2 Twitter accounts, my Facebook account, Google+, and LinkedIn. And I use Buffer app. I used to use Hootsuite, but I switched over to Buffer app. And I use Buffer app if I want to stagger things to go out, like for tomorrow and then the next day. But if I'm just doing something, like today when I did a post on abbotthoney.com on installing my honeybees, I just did that by hand, to go out to the different social networks. So I really don't even have a big email list. I don't even care about that, and I know everybody cares about their email list, and maybe I should care about that. But my keywords get a ton of traffic, because some of my recipe posts and my baskets and even my honey, from the keywords, they're the posts that just keep on giving. Like 3 years later, people are still coming on to those posts. And I'll look and I'll see, geez, I had 500 hits on that old baked stuffed shrimp post from 2011, So they do still come, and then they do buy the book. So that's my blogging story, and I'm sticking to it.
Give me a sec to cue up the guitar here. So unlike the rest of these genius bloggers, I'm really like a blog mechanic. I'm a web developer and a blog maker. So I'm going to just talk quickly about some of the technical aspects of blogging. I use WordPress, so I'm going to talk about WordPress, but I think anything that I say about WordPress you can infer relates to the rest of blogosphere. And I think that having been gotten into web design and using webs from the business world, one of the really great strengths about the internet and blogging is that it's really an amazing size equalizer. So like what Melissa is saying, how successful her blog has been. I mean, she's just Melissa in her house, and she's doing all this fabulous stuff, and the internet and blogs allow you to do that. So I'm going to just read this little thing from what WordPress says about themselves. So WordPress is maybe the most popular blogging software, and I think there's some really powerful language in here. So they say that they are a powerful semantic publishing platform. Who knows what that means? Comes with a great set of features designed to make your experience as a publisher on the internet as easy, pleasant, appealing as possible. So this is key. So you guys are all publishers, right? And so how do you make that happen, right? They say they can make it easy, and blogs make it easy. So they're proud to offer you a freely distributed, standards-compliant, fast, light, and free content management system. So content is what you make as publishers. The blog manages that for you. It has sensible default settings, so you put it up there and it more or less works. And features in an extremely customizable core. So the customizable core part is, if you're a mechanic like me and you can take the engine apart, you can make it go faster and do more things, but it does quite a lot just as it comes. This is the most amazing part. You're free to do whatever you like with the WordPress code, extend it, modify it in any way, or use it for commercial projects without any licensing fees. This is the beauty of free software. Free, meaning not only in price, but also the freedom to have complete control over it. So here's a bunch of really smart guys that have made this amazing product, and this is, you know, true of other blogging platforms and other open source software. They just put it out there. You can take it, you can change it, you can make it do whatever you want, you can use it as it is, you can change one line of code and call it yours. They don't care. The whole thing is amazing. So these are some of the built-in features that you can do with blogs. And by the way, I use WordPress for things that aren't blogs. So some of what I'm going to talk about is just using blogs for regular websites. So blogs happen to be, and WordPress in particular, are great SEO platforms. So some of what Melissa was talking about, the keywording and the key phrasing, blogs are great for that because it's built in. They're themable or skinnable, so just with a click you could change what they look like. Many of them are extensible through plugin architecture, so if you need a feature that's not part of it, you just get it and install it. There's community support that's better than any commercial software support you could ever want. WordPress is responsive out of the box, which means that it adapts to different viewports. So if you're looking at it on a phone, it could look one way, and if you're looking on a tablet, it could look another way. Easy to install. Standards compliant, who cares? Or we don't really care here. Some people care. And it's free. It's unbelievable. So these are some of the things where WordPress or blogs are great for small businesses. You can do e-commerce on a lot of them. Artists and musicians can make galleries and portfolios. You can set up membership sites where maybe you can charge for your for your publications, your publishing skill. And of course, you can use it for blogs. And then I'm going to skip a couple slides and just go through some of these stats really quickly. So WordPress kind of started the blogging thing in 2003, which makes it pretty old by computer standards. Happens to be used by 22% of the top 10 million websites. So here's something that's free that has an incredible high rate of adoption. The most popular blogging system used on the web with 60 million installations. A recent version was downloaded 20 million times in about a week. And there's like 30,000 plugins that are things that you can use to change how WordPress works.
First off, I want to just say that Good Morning Gloucester, I started at the end of 2007, but it's not just my blog. I have a lot of great contributors. A lot of my contributors are here tonight. Kim Smith is here. My sister Felicia is here. EJ is here. And they are just a handful of our stable of very talented, very dynamic, very passionate photographers, writers, cooks. We are a pretty diverse group, ranging from edgy and sarcastic to rainbows and butterflies, Kim Smith. But we try to offer a little bit for everyone. It got started at the end of 2007 because I was on Cape. I'm not sure who's familiar with Cape Ann Online, the online message board. I was part of this community, and so there was I had a thread, and the thread I was adding a picture a day from the docks. My cousin and I own Captain Joe and Sons, so I'd take pictures of the crazy fish that would come in, or interviews with the crazy captains that we offload. And I think that much like the success and the fascination with The Deadliest Catch and now Wicked Tuna, the characters in our community are, crazy and bananas, just like the people on the show, but also very real and imperfect. But we have, I think because I blog, and we blog, I should say, about Gloucester and Cape Ann, there's so much texture here, the layers and layers of industry and diversity and arts and food and music. I mean, it's endless. And, being the geek that I am and the tech, always trying to push the boundaries of, okay, how can we deliver this a new, different, interesting way? Okay, video podcast, audio podcast. Okay, let's see which different places I can get our RSS feed so more people can read it. And so it just kind of grew and grew and grew and grew, and the beast, and now with all my contributors, we're able to do a post every hour on the hour from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I personally, I was looking at my stats this morning, and I think I'm responsible for over 23,000 posts since 2007. So if you put that into a novel terms, that's some kind of novel, right? But all my contributors are equally as important. No one of us is more important than the rest of us. And but I just want, so I'm going to talk a little bit about if you wanted to start a blog. I mean, I think some really talented people, like Ron Gilson started a blog. He's a good friend of mine and a great historian of the city, and he had incredible content. And I remember him calling me up. He goes, "I'm going live today, Joe." I'm like, "Well, that's great, Ron. I'm going to push it for you. I'm going to help you out here. I'm going to push it for you." And he didn't understand. He just thought, like, he presses the button, and then boom, the universe has already discovered it because it's out on the interwebs, right? And so I think a lot of people start blogs, and they don't understand the groundwork that it takes to put it in front of people, because that's just as, like the tree that fell in the woods, if nobody heard it, does it exist? So as important as creating the content, unless you're solely doing it as a diary for yourself, finding avenues to not be spammy, but to put it in front, the certain things that you're blogging about, to put it in front of people, find message boards or forums or Facebook people that have the same interests as you, and invite them to potentially guest post on your blog, and then they may invite you to guest post on their blog. And I would also suggest to people starting out, it's really not a competition. Like I think people think that, like, oh, I can't stand other bloggers, or I don't want to highlight someone else's blog because they may never come back to my blog. I think, especially in our community, there are a lot of great bloggers, and I try to these guys here are going to be the next big thing. They are the big thing. The Clam, they just started. They are excellent writers. I know their blog is going to be enormous. But as soon as I heard about them, James, I think I saw that you had a blog, and within 15 minutes I said, "Can you come and do a podcast?"
Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. is when we call.
It doesn't sleep. It doesn't rest. The thing just keeps coming at you. That's right, James. That's right. And we had a great time, and we talked about it. So, so I think a rising tide lifts all boats when it comes to blogging, and in my experience, I'll wrap this up now. But like, the reason I've had so much fun with it is really because of the connections and the friendships I've been able to make. My blog isn't a money-making blog. But I'm in restaurants because I own a lobster company, and so I'm in these kitchens talking to chefs and owners. So I get to highlight a lot of restaurants and say, hey, go to this place and check it out. I don't charge these people, but I make a friendship with that owner. Or the artist says, Joey, I'm having an opening this week. Will you put up my press release? And we generally, 98% of what comes in gets posted on the blog unless I'm on vacation. And so it's been very, very fulfilling. And I think if you really want to blog, you do it about something you're passionate about. And if you're passionate about it and you put it in front of people, you'll be successful in the way that means that it's feeding your soul, because that's what means having a successful. We get a ton of hits. We get a ridiculous amount of hits, but that's not what makes me happy. What makes me happy is the connections I make with people, and knowing that I've made friendships by helping other people out. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. I hope I wasn't too wordy, and I hope you all have a great night tonight. And these are all great. These are really, really fantastic people came out. So thank you for coming.
Well, this is fascinating to me. I don't get out much, and I don't read other blogs. I don't have time. But I'm looking at personal growth and exploration and information sharing and WordPress mechanics and cultural aggregation. It's just the breadth of what this medium can do is just staggering to me. Mine is much more limited and narrow. In 2010, because I'm in the antiquarian book trade, and in 2010 I got the idea that I could write a blog that would tell it like it is about the antiquarian book trade. It's gonna blow the roof off this thing, nothing held back. And I got about halfway through my first attempted post when I realized I'd lose all my friends, I'd lose all my business, the whole thing would blow up on me and I'd be on welfare. But the idea then sort of transformed into this notion that perhaps I could use my blog. I tell people, I find stuff that doesn't exist and I sell it to people who don't know they want it. It's a very sort of obscure line that I'm in. So I thought that I could use my blog to get more visibility and help me sell this stuff. So I determined to write a weekly blog, and because I'm a writer, I mean, banging out 800 or 1,000 words every week is like, you know, it's going to the gym. It's just good exercise. It's not a problem. If you're writing every morning, you sit down and you look at the computer and you say, oh my God, what am I going to write today? So what am I going to write this week is no problem. So I started doing it, and after 3 years, I hadn't sold anything on the blog. But something else happened that was interesting. I realized I was sort of writing a history of my trade, of this narrow little endeavor that I'm in, and it became valuable for that. I would just write about where I went and what I did and what I saw and what happened in this world. Unlike people who write about Gloucester, who write about a place or an interest group, I was sort of traveling around America writing about this trade that I'm in. And it was valuable in that respect, at least in my mind. And then slowly it began to get some commercial traction. I still wasn't selling anything after 3 years, but I got more and more people in my trade, which is a very small group, but still, looking at the blog, and they wouldn't buy anything, but they'd say, oh, I saw you wrote about this book. I've got one of those. Do you want to buy it? So all of a sudden it became this great way for me to buy material. And that was, you know, you can't sell it if you can't buy it. So that was very valuable. And then just in the last year, somehow it began getting traction. I've got these people somehow trained to read the blog, and they know that if there's an item offered in it, it hasn't been offered anywhere before, and they're the first people to look at it, and now they jump on it. So I'm actually selling things through this blog. So it's successful in that way. I can't say that anything that I've done would be transferable to anybody that wants to write a blog in terms of content, but in terms of style, I've really learned that you got to have a lot of pictures, you got to write short sentences, you got to be funny, and for me, because it's my nature, you got to be a little snarky. I know, Joey, you wouldn't do it, but I like to take down a business, a blog, you know, or somebody, you know, it's a crabby old man blog, and for me, it's the texture that gives it texture. Everybody knows I'm crazy, or I'm only kidding, or I'm just an old crank, whatever. But when you're reading it, you get a joke, you get a snark, you get a lot of pictures, and you get very short sentences. And if I've learned anything in 4 years, that's it. So.
One thread that I see throughout this is the role of community in your blogs. Joey has become the go-to person, more useful than any calendar of events published anywhere else about what's going on in town. If you want to know if something's canceled, something's happening, who's doing what, anything, you go and you look on Good Morning Gloucester and you search there and you'll find anything. Gregor, your Bookman's Log has developed this community around you of booksellers which perhaps maybe have a hard time talking to each other and or maybe aren't the best socially, and this group of this community of being able to read and form a dialogue, react to each other and respond has helped build up your community. I'd love to hear what you have to say about what you've learned about your community or how your community has grown in your specific communities from blogging.
Who wants to go first?
I think in terms of community, well, we all knew it was a community because it's a trade, and a trade is just de facto a community. But what I got from the feedback and the exercise of doing this blog is that my trade, the book trade, has an ecology, just like nature, outdoors. It's a system, and it sort of runs beautifully in every which way. There's like dung beetles down at the bottom taking care of stuff off of dead people, and there's condors at the top and eagles circling around. There's all this kind of, just this beautiful chain of process that makes this trade work. And before I started doing the blog and before I started getting feedback from people about the blog, I had no idea that this was going on. And now I hear from people that are selling $3 books on eBay and people that are selling $300,000 books at Christie's and Sotheby's. I mean, it's really been I don't know, it's elicited a response, I guess, from people that I never expected that I'd see. So that's to my mind. And again, I don't get out much, I don't read other blogs, but even in my small, narrow exercise, it's been terrifically eye-opening and enlarging. How about you, Joey?
Can you repeat the question?
How has your blogging affected your relationship to your community?
I think I kind of talked about that in my first part, so I don't want to take. I'm going to pass it because I mean, the community is. It's the beauty of the blog. I think I spoke about that. Is how much I get back is because of the relationships I've made through the blog. Here you go, Melissa.
Oh, were you supposed to talk? I'm a mechanic.
For me, likes attract likes. So if you like a certain thing, like pine needle baskets or raising bees in your backyard, then all the people who like those same things are attracted to you. It's almost like a magnet. And I've made so many incredible friends and connections that way. And I've sold my baskets to people in South Carolina, Arizona, the UK. I mean, I don't know how they found me. I really don't, but they will come on and they'll say, I just loved that basket and I must own it. But for me, it's not about selling. It's not about making money, because you don't really make money at some of these things that you really love. It's really just having that connection with your with the people that are like-minded. And I've met quite a few basket makers throughout the world that I would not have met if I didn't have the blog, who didn't write me a letter, who I didn't say Facebook friend me or whatever. So I think it's that co-creative connection again. So thanks.
On the way over here, I was thinking about what to say, and I said, you know, as a result of this blog, I'm like I'm a self community. I'm a committee of one, because sometimes the venture or the material comes to me visually. I go out and I take some photographs, just responding kind of intuitively to what's around me. And sometimes I go out with an idea, and sometimes my heart leads first, sometimes my head leads first, sometimes the writing, just the joy of writing leads first, but it's generally not worked out until until some point in the process. And that's that's a little scary when you make a commitment to publishing a blog once a week, but I think there's been a kind of joy and discovery that this is actually, when you put yourself in the right place, that something good that somebody's going to thank you for is going to come out of that. So I didn't have formal writing experience before this, or formal publishing experience, but it's kind of taken a life of its own as an internal community, and maybe as an external community as well.
So as you're all publishers, you're also in a way editors. And there are some editorial decisions that come up when you're keeping a blog, and one of the most controversial is comments and how you handle comments. And I'm wondering if anybody here has any advice or good stories or anything they'd like to say about how they handle comments, what they allow or disallow, if you have any practice or any policy of keeping negative comments or responding, just how you view comments, because they are an integral part of many blogs. Anybody?
I think probably the two of us, because you guys, your two blogs are pretty totally upbeat, and you're creating stuff, so you probably don't get any. Very rarely you get a negative comment. Yeah, just the scams. In my case, every once in a while I try to push the boundaries and get a little edgy, and sometimes I like to point out, in my view, I have a problem with political correctness, and how I feel like it's gone a little bit overboard. So, when I'm feeling a little rambunctious and I like to get a little crazy, I'll push the line on certain issues, and I know it's gonna. Some of there's my viewership definitely skews older than how I write. There are a lot of my contributors that actually write or are always upbeat and positive and beautiful photographs and rainbows and butterflies, a la Kim Smith. But some of the stuff I do may be a little bit controversial. So. My theory on comments, because I feel that comments are critical to to making a blog more interactive and more successful. So I don't have a problem with people taking opposing views as mine. The only time I will not approve someone's comment is if they're taking real personal shots, they're using really vulgar language, or if I think that really if it's just they're unfair in what they're saying. But sometimes some of those really outlandish comments come in, and I like to post them and highlight them because I think they're so ridiculous that it makes my point for me because the opposing view is so ridiculous. But I do these guys here. They're the next big blog, the Clamistas over here, the Clam. But they are really out there with they take very hardline positions. And I was talking to Jim about this because Jim's blog. He was talking about his comments. He's like, well, this is my blog and these are my views, and they don't have to, And I think I don't know if you had come to terms, you had really thought it all the way through. Maybe you had. But as far as if you're going to call other people out, then, see, my view was if I call someone out, and I rarely do, then I have to, I feel an obligation to allow them to respond. And that's why I don't take it to the level where Jim and Kate, and I applaud you for where you guys take it, but that's why I probably don't, is because I don't want to have to not approve those comments. And maybe, a different way to handle that would be, oh, well, I'm just not going to approve those comments if they come in. But I personally wouldn't feel that was fair. So I don't know. That's my take on comments. Anybody else?
I wish I got some.
Do you want to talk about it?
Oh, sorry. We got. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got kind of a little bit threatened yesterday, which was fun. Someone told us to hit the road if we didn't like Gloucester, but I don't think they read the entire blog because we really like Gloucester. So it was a little bit weird. But also, he was shirtless and was drinking a twisted tea, so I wasn't very threatened.
There's a big part of the population that does not get satire at all. And you have to there's a huge part of population. Sometimes I say the most outlandish things on the blog, thinking that everybody's going to get how I understand this is outlandish to say, but they how could they don't get that it's a joke, and so then and when you have to explain the joke and you have to defend the joke, then it's not so funny. So I'm sorry. Why don't you move on? Yeah. You're good.
So my problem with somebody who's commented on things before is you read a piece of writing now that somebody's written online, and it's meaningful, or it says something, or takes a point of view, and all that kind of stuff, and then you say that was really interesting or powerful, made me think, and then the next comment is fag, and it's like what the hell was that? And all of a sudden you're taken away from the actual piece of writing and what it was trying to say and where it was trying to go with this argument over is someone gay or not, or is someone, you're a communist or you're not a communist. And so I feel like that doesn't help. I don't feel like there's any, even if I take a shot at somebody, yeah, I'm taking a shot. That's fine. That's my opinion. You don't have to read it. You can go away. You can go do something else. It's a push medium. It's not a pull medium. So I'm to the point where we've taken some comments. Most of them have been okay. Our friends are the worst people. I mean, they're the really ones I have to shut down. Like, I'm banning my dear friend Hugo Burnham tomorrow, and he's a good friend of mine. But he drinks with the drinking. It's hard. But that's the side of it. Is like, I'll shut it down. I will take gasoline and burn the comment section to the ground before I have to spend my time arguing with people because they didn't think we did something. You're a communist and you're a liberal and you're also a Nazi. Oh God! Now I have to go back to the history of World War II. This is going to kill me. I'm not doing it. So that's my thought. Oh, there we go.
All right. Let's see. I'm going to ask maybe one more question and then see if we have any questions from the audience. So one brilliant thing about blogs, as Steve pointed out, is that they're free and that you get to read them for free. And for instance, the clam came out of a need for a news source, maybe like a BuzzFeed news source, you know, like you got to weed through and find the news within the other stuff. But part of it is that you are able to give information, like Martin, on your blog, you give information about what's happening, what the changing of the seasons is. Your recent post about the shad showed me things that maybe I had deep in my memory of childhood, but brought forward a lot of natural history that I hadn't considered for years. And I'm wondering about the information, how you feel your role is in bringing information forward. And I would love to hear from Melissa, and then I would love to hear from everybody, or anybody.
I really do feel like I'm at a place in my life where I am a teacher, and that I'm sharing my history and how I do things and my techniques with anybody who cares to listen. So I don't, I'm not a college professor, I don't have a class, but that's kind of where it is for me. It's really being a teacher and showing people how to do things.
Being a teacher is a good thing, but being a stimulant is even better, because then you get hopefully you get responses and engagement which expands your world, so it takes yourself, meaning me, further into or more broadly into something that I was perhaps curious about. And so that it's a little bit chancy, because you have to put information or ideas out there that are substantial and grounded and directed enough to be interesting to engage the kind of people that you'd like to hear back from. But you have to be on firm enough ground not to be so that you're not taken seriously. Okay. I'm thinking specifically about, like, one of my readers is Chris Leahy, all right, top naturalist and supreme bird watcher and many other things. And so it has to be, whatever I do put out there has to be correct, and it has to be engaging, okay? And a couple of times I crept up into error, but not quite, luckily, so, and, well, recently, the last time he got in touch with me, he said, I really like your photographs of the birds, because they're not like perfect portraits. So I held my breath. What does he mean? He says, they're not like those published perfect bird portraits, all, clear, the bird is looking right at you, and partly because I don't have the ability, and I haven't taken enough photographs to get, really, really great photos. But I think it's, I try in those photos that I present to make it contextual, not just a portrait, but also I try, I gather photographs thematically, so that when somebody looks at this, it's not just, well, hey, here's all the birds that are out there this week, or here's, here's 7 warblers or something like that. There's and as I tried to say earlier on, I don't set out to present the warblers of the week. I set out to get deepened into what's going on in this place this week, and things. In that frame of mind, things start to to kind of attract themselves around this idea or this potential or something. So I think that's why if it happens to be about birds or trees or whatever it is, that's why, because there's idea content, there's passion content, there's spirit content, there's quest content, there's I try to make it a kind of adventure or a journey, if you will, even in a very limited kind of way.
Now's the time. Does anybody in the audience have any questions for our bloggers? Yes?
I have a question.
Okay.
Some of you have touched on it already, but I'd be interested to hear more about some of the most effective ways that you've built your audience.
Any takers?
A really effective way for me to build audiences with Pinterest. Just, you know, I post my recipes or baskets or the honey or anything to do with bees. Pinterest is a great, great place. I get a lot of traffic from Pinterest.
I feel a little outdated since I haven't kept a blog since the birth of my second child. But one way that I found people drawn to my site and that I helped my friends get other sites was linking to and writing about other blogs, referencing them, and making friends. I think there's a whole community of bloggers. There's a community of knitting bloggers, a community of, well, that's the only ones I read anymore. The poetry ones have gotten really dull. But there are communities of bloggers, and they deal with each other. There are different blogging, there'll be a series of blog posts, like everybody makes something out of the same fiber, and then they link to all of them, or somebody presents different bloggers guest blogging, and that it's like bringing your friends to a party. It helps everybody get to know each other.
Could someone on the panel or someone in the audience explain to me what keywords are and what they actually do? Joey, yeah, do it.
Keywords are meta tags, the tags. And so you use Blogger, right?
Yeah.
There should be a little box when you're, when you're composing your thing for tags. So you'd write, say you were writing about books, and then you'd put the author's name, comma, antique book, comma, the name of the book, comma, and any relevant term in the tags, and that'll sometimes, most of the time, show up, depends on how you have your blog set up, underneath the body of the post, and it allows the people that are reading your blog to click on those tags and bring them to other articles that are like tagged. And it actually also helps search engines, they key on those tags.
So if somebody's reading another blog and they click on a tag that I've got in my blog, it might lead them to my blog? Is that how that works?
It may, yeah. Yeah. And if it doesn't, when someone Googles that search term, you're more likely to get picked up. You can speak to this probably more than anyone because you build websites, SEO. Why don't you, I'm sorry for taking that from you.
No, so you had the concept exactly right. So within a blog, you can relate similar groups of content through a keyword. So in your blog, for example,
and then
yeah.
tags, yeah.
So in your case, a keyword might be an author's name, or it might be subjective. So maybe it's Scrimshaw, maybe it's Melville. So somebody could click on Melville, and in your case, they'd see all the articles you had written about Melville, or possibly all the products that were written about Melville. So there's another kind of keyword that people think about in terms of SEO traction, which is the keyword meta tag, which is largely deprecated now. So I think some people have in the back of their minds how this works. So let me just explain that quickly. So there's a lot of hidden content within a website or a blog that is designed to feed search engines in particular information about the content that's on that page. So there used to be a thing called the meta keyword tag, where if you wrote a page about chocolate chip cookies, you could put keywords in that hidden text. So you might put Nestle's Bits, you might put chocolate chip cookies, you might put Toll House, you might put walnuts. So that got so gamed by web developers that Google no longer uses it. So that's out of the equation now in terms of what we do under the hood in order to get pages ranked well by Google. That's different than the on-page tagging system that I think Greg is talking about.
If you scroll down,
Yeah.
I'll show you, just scroll down.
Yeah, go ahead. I was looking for them, but I couldn't find it.
Right here. So, go down to, it's gonna be a quicker way to do this, right? All right, here's Kim Smith's 6 o'clock post, and at the bottom, can you see the cursor where I'm sitting there? See, it says tagged. She used the term bird bath, birds of Cape Ann, birds of Massachusetts, Dumatella carolinensis, or whatever the hell that is, gray catbird. So these are tags that she inserted when she was creating her post, and those will get picked up more readily by Google. And we also have, there's categories. So Good Morning Gloucester has, I think we have something like, I don't know, God only knows, a couple hundred different categories, that if you click on the different category, it will, we'll see this, birds. So every single post that anyone created on our blog that they clicked off in the category of birds just gets put into this big, see, these are all titles, these, and it just goes on and on. There's probably thousands and thousands of posts that have to do with birds. So tags, every blog platform, whether Blogger, Tumblr, WordPress, they all have a little section that will say tags, and they're generally separated by commas. Some people, some use that you put, if there's 2 words, you put them in quotation marks, and then the next one in quotation marks to separate them. But very effective.
If you use Blogger, Greg, which you use, if you look under the stats section, it'll show you where you're getting your traffic from, and it will also show you what keywords were used to search that got to your site. And if you kind of study that a little bit and you see, well, people are actually searching for, Herman Melville and coming up with your posts or different book titles that you talk about or locations. But another thing that I like to, that's in the stats section on Blogger. So it's a way for you to analyze how the Google, algorithms are actually working for you. So then that's another way that you can work with them. So basically it's 20 keywords or less. And it's sometimes good if you put even your blog name or even Gloucester, Mass, or 10 Pound Island Bookstore, or Flat Rocks Gallery, or whatever it is that people might be searching for. It doesn't even have to be what's in the blog. It can just say East Gloucester, Mass, and that's another good thing to do.
Just get started. Register a dummy one to start, and if you wanted to, and then and you can. WordPress will let you register as many URL. It's always going to say myblog.wordpress.com, and if you want to shorten it, you have to go and hopefully that my blog, that particular phrase, is available. So you can just buy that domain and have it rerouted to, so Good Morning Gloucester actually exists as goodmorninggloucester.wordpress.com. That's the actual website. But in the beginning, I had enough foresight to say, people, if I go and tell people, It's goodmorninggloucester.wordpress.com. I'm going to lose probably 85% of the people because they're like, oh, it was something, something, something. But if I say it's goodmorninggloucester.com and it gets redirected to goodmorninggloucester.wordpress, and it doesn't cost much, it's like $12 a year to have that redirect. So I highly suggest that to happen for people. But it's a good, so it doesn't really matter. But just get started, and you're not going to break things. And you can change stuff around so easily, like the different themes and the way it looks. So don't be afraid, and don't be afraid to experiment with video and pictures and stuff. And who said it best? You said it, I think, best. Or somebody said, a picture and a couple words is very, very effective. It really is the formula. When I was first blogging, I would just put up a picture, and I asked the Good Morning Gloucester community, what could I do better? They said, and some guy had the foresight to say, you know, if you just put a little caption of what I'm looking at right here, it would make it so much more real for me or whatever. And so I took that, and I think there was definitely something to it. And that's a blog post. A picture tells 1,000 words. It really does. You know, you don't have to, like a lot of bloggers that only post once a week or once a month. Like, you know, I put out 6 to 8 posts a day, and every single day. And some are long written stuff, but some is just a picture and a photo and a caption.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you to our panelists for all your wonderful words and for the blogs that you've given us. And we hope to see you soon at some Gloucester Writers Center events. Thank you very much.